Yeah, and then you want to go to the first slide. There you go.
Okay, and just as an introduction, uh, I rank a lot of the pitchers and catchers and stuff in this book who combine for no hitters and stuff on their career, and the tools I use to measure, and I'm sure several of the people in this group already know what they stand for, but I'm just doing it in case there's somebody that doesn't.
Yeah.
They used wins above replacement, WAR, and JAWS, which is a Jaffe WAR system. And the wins above replacement is an advanced baseball statistic that estimates how many wins and a player contributes to the team effort above what a replacement player would do. And JAWS stands for the Jaffe WAR system created by Jay Jaffe to evaluate a player's worthiness for the Hall of Fame by comparing the other Hall of Famers at that position. Okay, and this is what the covers of the volume one has a pitcher on the cover, volume two has a catcher. And let's see. Okay, agenda for today. Gilbert did a kind of introduction to who I am. Grew up in California and was in the Air Force for 30 years. And I became a Giants fan in late 19 or early 1965. And when my folks and I were driving back from a vacation, heard it on radio, the John Roseboro Juan Marichal ruckus. Marichal hit him over the head with a bat and didn't know what was going on the radio that day. But anyway, that happened, and the covered the inspiration for the book, what I learned from this experience, a brief introduction, structure and comment format of the book, and I'll show you a chapter from the book, Ed Halicki's 1975 no-hitter, chapter 5. And then I show you the Q&A as the last thing, but second to the last slide shows where you can buy the books. As I mentioned, background information, grew up in California, Bay Area. And just as an aside, uh, the high school I went to, Homestead High, the same high school that Steve Jobs went to. I didn't know him. I mean, I was a freshman there when he was a senior, but just thought I'd mention that. And I went to Cal Poly, California Polytechnic, San Luis Obispo, graduated in 1979, joined the Air Force in 1984. That was a 30-year career. Inspiration to write the book. I had questions about no-hitters because we've all seen a no-hitter thrown by a guy who's basically a journeyman. Maybe he wins less than 10 games in his career, and you go, how did that happen? Well, it happens more often than you'd think. But going to the next thing, Jim Murray, the Los Angeles Times Hall of Fame and Pulitzer Prize winning writer, he had an article in July 15th of 1990, and there had been a flurry of no-hitters that were, short, like 6 innings because of rain. And Andy Hawkins threw a no-hitter where he walked a bunch of people, and he had his outfielders committed 2 errors. In the bottom of the eighth inning, 4 runs came in, and then the team he was pitching for, the Yankees, didn't get any runs in the top of the ninth, so the game was ended. But he only pitched 8 innings, and he thought that it was too easy to get no hitters. And basically, I refute that argument, although I say in some areas he was right, in some areas he was wrong. And what happened to pitchers after the no hitter? Well, some got a no hitter earlier in their career and had a long career and Hall of Famer. One individual, he threw a no hitter in September of '86, Joe Cowley, and that was the last win he got in the big leagues. He didn't have a bad injury or anything. He got like Steve Blass disease and couldn't throw the ball over the plate. Interviews with the pitchers and the catchers. What's at the highlight of their careers? Only a couple guys out of the 15 guys I interviewed, only a couple of them thought it was a highlight. A lot, if a guy was on a team that went to the World Series, that was the highlight, almost without question. And David and Goliath situations, how often did that happen? And uh, David and Goliath, I have a way that I rank the pitchers level 1 through 5 based on their JAWS score for their career. And I'll have that in the next slide. But also had David and Goliath situations with basically David and Goliath situations between a bad team and a good team, with a good team getting no hit. And that's happened several times. Slide. Yep, I got that. And I discovered how important journeyman pitchers and catchers are to Major League Baseball. From getting all the numbers down, there was like from 1901 to 2020 or 2021, there was 203 different pitchers that threw no hitters. They threw 243 no hitters. And of I'll get down to there, the third line, level 1 to 5 explanations. Level 1 guys were like Hall of Famers, or if they weren't Hall of Famers, there was a reason, like Ed Sicott, Black Sox scandal, why they didn't get in. Level 2 are very good, but not Hall of Famers. Level 3 were good. Somebody like a Dean Chance, 130 wins, 115 losses. Level 4 were not quite the level of level 3. And level 5 are the journeyman. The average journeyman one loss was 43 wins and 46 losses. And are no hitters due to luck or skill? Both. And level 1 to 3s made up like 13% of no hit pitchers, but they threw like 60% of no hitters. So yes, that's where the skill argument comes in. But then 30% of the guys who threw no hitters were level 5 journeymen. So yeah, there can be luck. You can have a completely dominating game like Kerry Wood had with the Cubs in the late 1990s, where he struck out 20 batters and didn't walk anybody, but he allowed one hit, and that so he still has the record for 9 inning pitcher highest game score of 105. Let's see, journeyman versus David and Goliath, journeyman versus superior opponent. That's happened a number of times. In fact, there's been 5 games where you had a journeyman going against a vastly superior team to the one he was pitching for. There's been 5 games where the good team was 40 games or more better than the bad team that threw the no hitter against them. I didn't know those games existed, but they did. And the game, 23 chapters focus on individual hitters that tell the story of the game, the teams and players involved. Every chapter had quotations. Sometimes it was the sports writer who covered the game. Sometimes it was the teammate. Sometimes it was the manager. Let's see. And of the 20 interviews, I did 15 of them. I had a couple guys helping me with the book. One guy did 4 interviews, and my friend Rob Adams did the first interview with Dallas Braden. And there was a lot of tables that we put in there. The average chapter had 6 tables. And some of the stuff that you will see on the tables was each team's best pitch games. And if you have a team that's been around since 1900, you will have very high game scores. Now, a game score was something that Bill James created. And basically, if a guy throws a no hitter, doesn't allow any hits, and has the same amount of walks as strikeouts, he has a game score 87. So the highest game score, and I'm going to talk about this game in a couple of minutes, was for a no hitter, 9 innings, was Max Scherzer, who basically didn't walk anybody, struck out 17. I think a guy got on base on an error, which isn't counted against a pitcher. So his game score is 104, still one less than Kerry Wood's 105. Each team's best pitch games, best pitchers from each decade. And I like going through that because in the 1960s, the pitcher that had the highest WAR score was Juan Marichal. His was like 54.3 for those 10 years. Bob Gibson's was like 53.2. The only reason Sandy Koufax didn't have a higher score is he only pitched 7 years of that decade. And let's see, best pitchers from each country. That was fun putting together also. You know, the Caribbean countries, Mexico, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Cuba, uh, Panama, etc., and Korea, Japan, and I think there was another Asian country. Anyway, and many more unique subjects. Like one of the chapters at Halicki brought up how that he was 6'7", and there's only 40 or 55 players who are taller than him. Major League Baseball history out of 22,000 players. So he's in the top 0.5% in height. Okay, and in two volumes, two questions. Volume one, early on in like in the introduction, we talked about what my brother and I, Bruce Hurd, who's the editor of the book, which game was the greatest no-hitter even pitched. And you could just go with Max Scherzer's game with a game score of 104, highest 9-inning no-hitter of all time. Uh, and that was against the Mets, who were a good team, went to the World Series that year, lost to Kansas City, but it was like near the end of the season. The Mets were still trying to get higher up in the standings, get home field advantage for playoff series. Hideo Nomo, and I didn't realize that there only one game has been a no-hitter in Coors Field, but he threw it in 1996. And the Rockies that year had a team batting average of 343 in Coors Field. So that's just like incredible that he did something like that, and there has been a no-hitter since. Randy Johnson, 2004 against the Atlanta Braves. A couple reasons for this one. The Braves wound up finishing 45 games better than the Diamondbacks that season, 96 and 66 versus 51 and 111. And that was just 3 years after they won the World Series. and Randy Johnson became the oldest pitcher to throw a perfect game. He was 40 years old. Next, Harvey Haddix. And I know some people out there will go, wait, he didn't throw a no-hitter. Well, let me explain. 1959, he threw 12 perfect innings. Then in the 13th, guy got on base on an error, sacrificed a second, intentional walk. Then Ted Kluszewski hit a ball over the fence. In normal situation, it'd be a home run and it'd be 3-0, end of the game. It was the end of the game, but Hank Aaron had been on first base and he just ran off the field. And while Kluszewski ran around the bases, and that was an out. And there had been one out, so there was two outs. But the guy who was on third base ran in and scored. So Kluszewski got credit for a single, and they won the game 1-0. But in 1991, Fay Vincent was a commissioner. And he commissioned a group to reclassify no-hitters because at that time there was like 30 games that had been short no-hitters, like 6, 7, 8 innings. But so it was good. It was long enough to count as a game, but they counted as no-hitters, and they said, nope, those don't count as no-hitters anymore. Plus games where the pitcher pitched more than 9 innings and then allowed a hit in the no-hit ball, allowed a hit in the 10th. Those don't count as no-hitters anymore. Or if a visiting pitcher throws 8 innings of no-hit ball, his team doesn't score any runs, the other team does. And so the pitcher winds up throwing 8 innings of no-hit ball. That doesn't count as a no-hitter anymore. And we have one of those games I'm going to mention. And Sandy Koufax, 1965 against the Cubs. It was a pennant-winning team, hell, a World Series winning team that year, the Dodgers. But the Cubs did not have they were less than a 500 team, but they did have 3 Hall of Famers playing for them. Ron Santo, Billy Williams, and Ernie Banks. So that counts. And it was a perfect game, and he struck out 14, had a game score of 101. Volume two, which no-hitter is most likely no-hitter ever pitched? This is where a kind of a David and Goliath situation comes up. Mike Warren of the Oakland A's, and if you say who's that, well, he didn't have that long of a career. He pitched a couple years with the A's. He was called up a couple times in 1983, and he was like 22 years old. And I saw the tape of that game, the last inning, and boy, he looked like he was 18, very skinny. And he wound up having a record of 5 wins and 3 losses that season. But he wound up with a career record of 9-13 because he wound up getting a hurt arm. I don't know if he had Tommy John surgery, but yeah, record of 9-13 for his career. And in just case if you're wondering, he threw this no hitter with like 3 games left in the season, but the White Sox had all their starters in because they were trying to finish the season with the best record, so they could have the home field advantage against the Orioles, who were winning the Eastern Division at the time. And so it's totally legit. Next game was, this is actually a couple games that happened in consecutive days. Ernie Koob and Bob Groom of the St. Louis Browns, who finished last in 1917, threw no hitters against the Chicago White Sox, who finished first that year. And the White Sox are like 42 games better than the Browns that year. I found that incredible. It was no hitters on consecutive days, one team against the other, and the bad team did it to the good team. Next game was Joe Bush, and this was the Philadelphia A's, 1916 versus the Cleveland Indians, and the Indians were 40 games better than the A's. The A's had the worst record of any team in Major League Baseball in the 20th century. They were 38-115 that year. Yeah, but Bush himself was like a level 2 pitcher, but he played on such a bad team, I included it. Don Black, 1947, Cleveland Indians against the A's. I include Don Black because he had the lowest JAWS score for a career, negative 1.9, of any pitcher that has thrown a no-hitter. And Jose Jimenez, 1999, June 1999 versus the Arizona Diamondbacks. He threw a no-hitter against the Diamondbacks and Randy Johnson. A month later, he threw a shutout against the Diamondbacks again and against Randy Johnson. Those are the 2 shutouts and complete games he threw in his career. He was not successful as a starter. He wound up doing all right as a relief pitcher. He had over 100 saves in 4 years with the Rockies. And here are the people I interviewed. Just give a little bit about each guy. I'm not going to go 5 minutes on each guy. Jim Maloney, I enjoyed talking to him. His game was a 10-inning no-hitter, of only 3 pitchers that have done that in Major League history. Johnny Edwards was his catcher. Johnny Edwards did not go into the coaching or managing field after his playing career, and he wound up being an engineer and being the plant manager of a nuclear power plant in Houston after he got out of baseball. Juan Nieves and Bill Schroeder, his no-hitter was in 1987. I included this no-hitter because it was noticeable between all the other no-hitters I looked at. Mentioned there were like 5 great plays that happened behind him. A couple by the third baseman, Paul Molitor, one by Robin Yount in center field that ended the game. And all that. And Bill Schroeder, I included him because he's been like an announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers for like the last 25, 30 years. Dave Steve, Pat Borders. Dave Steve because he lost 4 no-hitters in the 9th inning before he threw his no-hitter. So I thought that was interesting. Pat Borders is a catcher, and Pat I included because he's one of 5 individuals who's been on a World Series championship team and a gold medal team. He was on the United States gold medal baseball team in 2000, managed by Tom Lasorda. Randy Johnson and Robbie Hammock. Randy Johnson, for the no-hitter, I mentioned it, he's 40 years old, and team difference between them and the Braves was intense, very much of a difference, 45 games. Robbie Hammock, Gilbert mentioned this in a letter to me, in an email to me. I enjoyed talking to Robbie. He had like he's from Georgia and he had about 45 relatives and friends who were at the game watching him. And yeah. Oh, and one thing he mentioned to me is the perfect game was the easiest game he ever caught. 27 up, 27 down, and didn't have to worry about any base runners trying to steal second. And Ed Halicki, I'll talk about his game later, August 1975. Andy Hawkins, he was still kind of ticked off that they took his no-hitter away from him. But what can you do? For a year, it was counted as a no-hitter. Within September 91, they changed the definition. Bud Smith of St. Louis, no hitter. He was only 20 years old when he did that. He was like about fourth, fifth youngest guy to throw a no hitter. Dallas Braden, the A's in 2010, he threw a no hitter on Mother's Day in May of 2010. And his grandmother was there at the game because his mom had died when he was a young kid. Buck Rogers, he caught Bo Belinsky's no hitter in 1962. First no hitter ever thrown at Dodger Stadium because that's where the Angels played then. Don Werner of the Reds caught Tom Seaver's no hitter. And I've talked to several diehard Cincinnati Reds fans who swear up and down that Johnny Bench caught Tom Seaver's no hitter. No, it was Don Werner. Really enjoyed talking to him. Mike Heath caught oh Mike Heath caught Mike Warren's no hitter. Ron Karkovice caught Joe Cowley's no hitter. And Joe Kelly is the guy that wound up not throwing any winning any games after that game. Terry Steinbeck caught a no hitter in 1999, and that was a game where his pitcher John Milton uh, threw a no hitter against the Angels, who had been eliminated 3 days earlier from playoff contention, and the Angels were the opponent, and they wound up out of their 9 position players, including the DH, who were normally the guys who went out there first string. 7 of them were benched that day to give other guys a chance. So that was the closest I could find to a guy throwing a no hitter against the B team. But still, it's a no hitter, and he struck out 15 guys. He had a game score over 100. He threw a dominating game. And then Eli Whiteside, his game that he caught a no hitter was Jonathan Sanchez. And basically, his pitcher was Jonathan Sanchez and Eli Whiteside. Both were last minute replacements. Uh, Sanchez was a last minute replacement for uh, Randy Johnson, and Eli Whiteside was a last minute replacement for Benji Molina, whose wife was having a baby. And Miguel Montero and Coy Hill caught a no hitter for Tampa against Detroit in 2013. And it's the only no hitter that ended on a walk-off wild pitch. So, anyway, interesting backstories on all of these. Ed Halicki's no hitter in August 1975 against the Mets. Okay, and in each chapter, he had started with quotations from teammates, manager, opponents, and sports writers when applicable. The game story, there's backstory on Darrell Edwards, who is the second baseman. Darrell Edwards had been traded from San Diego to the Giants, and the Giants were undergoing a period of time from 72 to 77, or 72 to 75 at that point, where they were trading all their fan favorites, but they were going bankrupt and they were not drawing many people. And getting rid of the fan favorites led to even less people going to the games. I mean, the game that we went to was a doubleheader, and I think maybe 20,000 went to it. But the attendance, the average for the year was like 6,000. It was less than the National League. But some of the people they got rid of, besides Daryl Thomas, Willie Mays was traded in 72, McCovey in 73, Bobby Bonds in 73 or 74. So in 1975, they had traded Bonds for Bobby Mercer, but that the second game of the doubleheader, Bobby Mercer was not playing. And the environment that was going on at that point was the Giants every day on the main radio station that carried the Giants game, KSFO, and on the newspaper, San Francisco Chronicle, were saying that the Giants were moving to Toronto. It's a done deal, etc. So even more of a reason not to go to the game. And in between the games of the doubleheader, Carl Wolinda, the famous tightrope walker, walked on a tightrope from first base foul pole to the third base foul pole. And they had guys, big guys, holding down the ropes to keep the line taut so he wouldn't fall off. And they did their job. He didn't fall off. And everybody was happy. And the interview I did with Ed Halicki was one of the best you had. He had several funny stories, and one of them I liked was that he was pitching a game for the Phoenix Giants. This was before the Diamondbacks were around. For the Phoenix Giants, he'd allow 4 runs. The bases were loaded. And the manager, Rocky Bridges, who was a character, walked out to the mound, pointed out to beyond the fence where there was a scoreboard, and he said, "Hey, look over the scoreboard. Heck of an orange moon, isn't it?" So Ed looked there, okay, then looked back, and Bridges was walking away from the mound. He was about 20 feet away. And like he said to Bridges, was there something you wanted to tell me? And Bridges said, "Oh, yeah, get this SOB out." The Giants' season's records from 72 to 81, these are some of the tables. And that was a bad time for the Giants. Out of those 10 years, they had a couple of years where they had winning records, but not more than that. The Giants' game scores from 1900 to 2021, all the highest ones were from 1900 to before the Giants came to San Francisco. And the highest game score of any Giants pitcher was Carl Hubble in the early 1930s. And the highest game score for since the Giants have been in San Francisco was both Juan Marichal and Gaylord Perry, both through 16-inning shutout innings in games. Marichal's one was against the Braves, and the game ended in the bottom of the 16th when Willie Mays hit a home run to end the game. And all chapters included quotations, backstories, tables, and interviews when available. And well, anyway, that one got skipped. Uh, okay, these are the no-hit games that Houston pitchers threw. There were 17 of them, 10 on the first page. Don Notabart's first one against Houston, now against Philadelphia at Colt 45 Stadium, 4-1. No, 4-1. And then Ken Johnson, who was roommates with Don Notabart, threw a no-hitter in April of 64, and his is still the only one where a single pitcher got a no-hitter and lost the game 1-0. Don Wilson in June of 67, Houston winning 2-0. And the opposing pitcher that day for Atlanta was Phil Negro. Don Wilson threw another no-hitter in May of 69. And the interesting thing about this was at Cincinnati the day before, also at Cincinnati. It was April 30th. Jim Maloney threw a no-hitter against the Astros. So that's the second time that happened. Team swapping no hitters in consecutive days. Larry Dierker, 1976. Ken Forsch in April 1979, no hitter against Atlanta. And he had a brother, Bob Forsch, who also threw a no hitter, the only brothers to throw no hitters. Nolan Ryan in September 1981 against the Dodgers, 5-0. And the Dodgers wound up getting revenge by beating them in the playoffs a week later. Mike Scott in September 1986 against the Giants. And that's the only game that's the only no hitter that clinched a division title for a team. Darryl Kyle, September 93 against the Mets, 7-1. And then a six pitcher no hitter in June of 2003 against the Yankees. It was interesting. And four pitchers in August 2019 against Seattle. Then Justin Verlander in September of 2019 against Toronto. Justin Verlander has three no hitters. When he retires, he probably will be inducted in the Hall of Fame. And then three pitchers in August of 2022 against the Yankees. And then four pitchers in November 2022. Was the second no hitter in World Series play. Framber Valdez in August of 23 against Cleveland. Ronald Blanco last year in April against Toronto, 10-0. Mike Fears in August of 2015 against the Dodgers. And Mike Fears is one of these guys. He wound up having more than 300 starts in his career, and he had two complete games, and they were both no hitters. Jim Bibby, 1973, 6-0 over the Oakland A's at Oakland. Burt Blyleven, 1977 against Anaheim, at Anaheim. Nolan Ryan, 1990 when he was 43 at Oakland. Then Ryan broke his own record in 1991, being the oldest pitcher to throw a no-hitter when he was 44 against Toronto. And Kenny Rogers, perfect game in 1994 against the Angels. Now, we could keep this up for a little bit if you want. This is where you can get the book. Amazon and Volume 1, that's the link to go for Volume 1 paperback. And Volume 2, that's the link to get Volume 2 paperback. Or you can go to Amazon.com, and with the search part on the top, you can basically type Amazon.com and then search, type in the name of the book. From Randy Johnson to Dallas Braden, no hitters beyond the box score, Volume 1, the 12, 13 words, and you can see the book at that point.
Yeah, Kevin, I just put the links in the chat also.
Okay. Okay, so then I'll go to the last slide. Questions. I can only see four people here. If somebody wants to speak.
Oh yeah, Kevin, if you stop sharing your screen, then you can see everybody again.
Okay.
And I have just one correction on your slides.
Okay.
So yeah, under share, just or hit escape to
I
stop
hit
sharing your
escape.
screen. Okay. You're still sharing your screen though. So where it says share, there should be a button to unshare.
Okay, let me
So this would be on the Zoom window.
the workplace wouldn't have I could get rid of that. Can I get rid of workplace?
Yeah, you just need to get on the Zoom window to unshare.
Yeah.
No, you're not joining the meeting. You're already in the meeting.
Okay.
So you need the Zoom window. See, I don't know if I can. Let's
If you can
see.
do something.
Well, I'm gonna try.
I got a thing at the bottom, zoom.us.
Well, the Zoom window should have something. Okay, wait a minute. I can do it. All right, I just
Okay.
did it. I just did it for you. Okay. One correction for you, Kevin. The Astros no hitter that you have for August of 2022, that was actually June 25th, 2022. That's the
Okay.
Christian
Okay.
Javier, Hector Neris, Ryan Presley no hitter against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium.
And Javier
Um,
did the one, he was the starting pitcher in the one in the World Series too,
in
I
the
believe.
it was the same year, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was something we got used to seeing. So for Astros fans, we're excited to see Christian Javier come back to the starting ranks.
Okay. I guess
Um,
you uh, click on your mute thing so you're not muted and then raise hand or whatever. Just start speaking.
Uh, I have a
I
question.
okay,
Yeah.
question from Sai. I can manage this, Kevin. Go ahead, Sai.
Okay.
Um, Kevin, great research, great presentation.
Thank you.
Uh, did you see my comment? I don't know if it got posted. You said Ted Kluszewski got that hit in the Harvey Haddix game. It was
I,
Joe Adcock.
those guys confuse me at times. It's just big, brawny guys who hit home runs. Okay. But I
Thanks,
was
Sai.
at a point where I wasn't going to remember the right name, so I just said Ted Kluszewski.
I have one.
Oh, hey, hang on a second, Brian.
Oh, sorry.
Doc
Oh,
Doc has his hand up, so we'll go to Doc and then Brian, you'll be next.
okay.
Okay, I got a baseball here signed by Johnny Vandermeer. Did he make your book by any chance?
He had the highest um, game score of any Cincinnati Reds pitcher ever. He pitched like 16 innings and allowed one run in like the 30s. I don't know if it was before his two double, his two
Back
no hitters or
back to back
after,
no hitters.
but he has the highest game score of any Cincinnati Red pitchers.
Well, that makes me feel good. But did he make your book?
I didn't put him in there.
Okay, I just
When I started the book, I had 49 chapters, and my brother got
oh
involved and said, "Now
that's
we're getting
okay.
rid of some of these."
I just it's okay. I get this, the ball's also signed by Johnny Bench, but I don't think he caught either one of those games. Okay, in
No,
1938. So
yeah,
he's he's on here somewhere too. There he is. Okay. All right. Thanks. Appreciate your
sure,
thanks for everything.
sure. You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Doc. Yeah, Brian.
My question was really around the mixture of, does it take talent or luck?
Mhm.
And you said a little bit of both. And then marrying that with you had the pitcher kind of cohort bunching where you kind of identified each pitcher as a one, two, three, or four or five.
Right.
And I was kind of curious if you happen to recall the lowest number, like, Nolan Ryan's a one, and he's got seven
Right.
hitters. What is the lowest number of anybody who had more than one no hitter? Like, is that a
Oh,
three, a
I
two?
think it was Bill Stoneman.
And what number was he?
Uh, I think he had a Jaws career of like five or three or something like that.
But in terms of your grouping of pitchers, was he a what a group two or what?
He was a five.
He was a five.
Five was the guys who had the lowest career totals.
So you had a five that had multiple no hitters.
There were two guys that had multiple no hitters. I can't remember the
Five
other guy's name.
that were fives
That were
in your
fives. Yes.
interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, then it is it is luck, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Kevin, I have a question for you. Um,
Sure.
um, you said you interviewed Ed Halicki.
Yes.
That must have been a real treat to kind of think back to when you were in high school, at just you didn't know there was going to be a no-hitter that day. You didn't know that this was going to impact things, but it must have been a treat to kind of share those memories of that day and then, talk to him about what that experience was like.
Oh, it was great. And I can't remember. He said he pitched a game where he allowed one hit that he thought was better than the no hitter.
Hmm.
But as far as whether that was his best experience or not. Let me, hell, I got the book. Let me see if he put that down as his number one experience, because most
Hmm.
of the guys that went to a World Series, that was it. But
Yeah.
Licky did not go to a World Series when he was in the Giants from 72 to 78.
Yeah.
Let's see. Licky. And maybe I didn't ask him that question. Oh, well.
Hmm.
But he had another funny story that I did. I could tell you that now because heck, the thing's over with. So uh, he had a friend who was a Yankees fan. He grew up in New Jersey. He had a friend who was a Yankees fan, and basically, the guy flew into San Francisco to see Ed pitch the second game of the doubleheader. He and his girlfriend saw the first game. And then the second game, she got cold. This is Candlestick Park in August. It's cold. Like, Mark Twain said the coldest winter I ever spent was in August in San Francisco. So she wanted to leave. So they left, but his friend kept the game on his car radio, and basically drove back, and they were staying in the East Bay. And he pulled into the driveway when the last guy got out, so he'd missed the no hitter, and he'd seen it like 1,000 Yankee games because his dad had season tickets. So he missed the Yankee game because his girlfriend wanted to leave because she was cold, and he said something like, "I'm done with you." I missed the no hitter. I'm done with you.
Oh
So something to
God.
that effect.
That's terrific. Kevin, thank you. Sai's got a question.
Sure.
Did Rick Wise make your book? Because he had 2 home runs in his no hitter. He hit
One
two
of my
home runs in
friends
his no
brought
hitter.
that up, and I could have had 100 games, and then it
Sure.
would have been
Okay.
books. It was mentioned to me. I thought about that, but then after a while, we had our 23 games and said, no, we're not adding one unless it's just like incredible.
Sure. And then the Jim Maloney no hitter, the 10 inning game, that was against the Cubs in Wrigley Field, right?
Yes, it was
Well,
part of a doubleheader.
uh, that the last 3 or 4 innings, last maybe 2 or 3 innings of that game is on the internet.
I've
Uh,
seen it. I've seen it too. Yeah,
yeah, it's I mean it's amazing. It's in color, and Ernie Banks is in the game. Pete Rose is in the game. Just an amazing thing to watch. And as far maybe you can clarify this, I think that's the last 10 inning or
any no
longer
hitter.
no hitter.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
The other two are guys in the 20s or 30s.
and so that's amazing that we actually have the video footage from a few innings of that game, and it's in color and it looks really good.
Yeah. Yes.
Kevin, aside from, trying to line up interviews, with some of these retired players, I'm sure that's always a challenge. How do you contact the person? Do you know someone that knows someone, that kind of thing? But aside from that, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in trying to put this together?
Well, as I mentioned, I finally talked to my brother and said, I need your help on this. Because, man, yeah, if left to my own devices, I would have had 50 games, and I don't know if I would have gotten done with it. It's easy to just keep adding on and adding on. No, no, no. You got to take back some.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm sure, that if you give this presentation to any group of baseball fans, they're all going to wonder, wait, why aren't you talking about my guy? Like Ryan's
Exactly.
asking about John Means with the Orioles. You're like, hey, what about this one? What about this one?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
It's
but
like
but
23 games, and there were, out of the 30 teams in Major League Baseball, there were a bunch of teams I left out. I didn't
yeah,
get one for each team.
yeah, yeah. All right. Are there any other questions for Kevin?
You got me. I'm a captive audience.
That's right. This is your chance. Okay, I've put in the chat links to the Amazon
Okay.
pages for both of these pages. And then Kevin, if you don't mind, I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop recording here just a second. We'll share this recording for members who weren't able to join us today so they can watch this later. And then Kevin, you're free to use that video, as a link or whatever, however you'd like. I'll share with you the August newsletter, so you'll have
Okay.
that summary as well. But let
What's
me go ahead
the
and